I played it, and it's like 1/3 the speed or something. So I'm sure you're supposed to play it faster, and I tried, but it doesn't play faster.
Hmm.
So maybe the speed control on this thing is broken.
That could be. Maybe it was just recorded for a different one.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, let's see. Pete sent me some questions for you.
Sweet.
I don't know about some of them, but
Albert, come on, get up here.
I like this one. Who is Dave?
Indeed. Who is Dave?
I know it's hard. It's hard to figure that out sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. Tell me about it. I've been working on that for 41 years.
There you go. So how did you get started making music?
Right after high school, when I worked in the theater, my old boss gave me a synthesizer that he had sitting in his basement.
Oh, nice.
His wife used to be a piano teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, because I was looking at like gear magazines and all the sound equipment and all the stuff that would go through the theater all the time, and I'd be like, oh, that's cool, like I wonder what that does. And he was like, oh, if you want to get into this, I have a keyboard in the basement, you can have it.
What was it?
It's a Korg Poly 800.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah.
You just gave it to you?
Yeah. He was like, it's been sitting in the basement for 20 years. Nobody wants it. I can't get rid of this thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Here you go. And that was it.
So Korg Poly 800, and then you were like, shit.
I'm like, wow, it has a sequencer and MIDI.
Ah.
I was like, okay, great.
So that was the beginning. I know we talked about it before, but then you started working with Chris at shortly after that, or was it a little?
Oh no, that was like, I don't think I even met Chris until maybe, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 years after that.
Oh, okay.
I already had, because like I got a couple other things. I got a little sound module and a drum machine and some other stuff. And
yeah.
And then I think I met Chris when I was 21.
That makes sense.
And yeah, that's when he had just started doing Dissect with that other girl whose name I don't remember.
Okay.
He was like doing the programming, and she was playing violin or something, or cello maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, hey, you have a drum machine and a synth. So do I. We should jam.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then Dissect was a couple of years, maybe 3 years or so.
I don't know exactly. Something like that.
Yeah, I was talking to Chris about re-releasing some of that stuff. I don't know, we talked about it before. That would be cool.
Yeah. I somewhere I have the master tape of all the songs, or maybe it's on a CD or something.
The master CD.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we talked about that briefly, because we did that one CD.
Yeah.
And then I think we did the one track on that compilation, the Sidetracked record.
Yeah.
That Brian put out. That was all those 1-minute songs.
Yeah, I remember that. So you guys were technically on vinyl.
Technically, yeah.
That was vinyl, right? Yeah.
1 minute on
1
vinyl.
minute of vinyl recording. That's neat. Yeah, so let's talk about that later for sure, when we got to do some kind of release, because I feel like those tracks hold up pretty well still.
Yeah, I guess they probably do, huh?
Some of
I
them.
haven't listened to any of that stuff in a while, but
I mean, some of them, are really good. So did you work on anything in those 3 years from when you started? I mean, I know you worked on stuff, but did you work on a project?
Um, Before Dissect, there's sort of like me and Aaron had like a little project that we were kind of writing songs.
Right. Okay.
Just like trying to figure out what the hell we were doing. Um, that was called Severed Season, I think.
Hmm.
Um, we wrote like, I don't know, 4 songs or something, 5 songs.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Um, so I guess what motivated you to like, were you listening to industrial music and you were like, I want to make this kind of thing? Or was there something?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
You listen to like some crazy industrial music like Skinny Puppy or Coil or something, and you're like, wow, that's fucking crazy. How the hell did they do that? How do they make those sounds? How do they put all that shit together?
Yeah.
But then like there was a point, I think I heard like the first Velvet Acid Christ album, and at that point I already had a synthesizer, and I'm like, oh, he's just doing this thing on a sequencer and like putting like this part together and this part together. Like somehow it was like,
It kind of clicked.
yeah, it clicked. Like everything made sense. I'm like, oh yeah, that's how they do that.
It's funny to somebody not as good
Right.
technically as like Skinny Poppy, but you can actually tell what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you listen to some of the more complex stuff, you don't even know, especially if you're just starting out. It's like, how did they make all these sounds do that?
Right.
Um, do you find that, those old records still hold up for you with that kind of thing? Like, how do they do it? Or do you find new music that does that for you?
Um, it's interesting thinking about it now that like I know how records get made. I know all this technology stuff.
Yeah.
The people that are like kind of blowing my mind still are the people who do it like, and you don't hear any of that. You listen to it and you're not thinking like, oh wow, this guy's playing the arpeggiator on this synth, and it's, oh, these drum samples from this drum machine that I have in the closet over here.
Yeah.
Like I just got the new Scorn record on vinyl, and I was listening to it yesterday, and I'm like, God damn, this guy is good at what he does. And like I don't even like I have no guess like what his process is, like what kind of gear he uses, like
Yeah.
I mean I could guess, but I'll probably be wrong. The guy's just so good at what he does.
Yeah. So there's still artists that kind of, you're still wondering how they did it. That's,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like, something, so it's interesting because you went to art school, technically, I guess, for sculpture, right?
Albert, don't chew on that.
Um,
Yeah, sculpture and metalsmithing.
right. But then you end up working in a machine shop, essentially, right? Or,
Yeah, basically.
yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a very Detroit thing, I feel like,
yeah.
to do. You go to school for art, but then you don't make art necessarily in that same thing that you were trained for. Um,
Yeah, it's sort of weird. Like I went to art school and I actually learned how to do something useful.
yeah.
you know,
Um,
not that making art isn't useful or anything, but
Do you feel like that's kind of a defining characteristic of a Detroit scene, or how do you think the Detroit scene for making industrial music is different in that way? Like, does that play into it? The fact that a lot of people have actually worked in machine
Um,
shops and factories and
no, it's kind of weird. I feel like maybe for older generations that might be true.
right.
I feel like a lot of people now, especially most of the people that we know that make electronic music, they're like software developers, or they
Right.
do computer shit, networking, IT stuff, not the actual like mechanical, technical or whatever.
Yeah, so they're
People they're not forging metal and welding and you know going in and out of steel mills every day.
they're involved with technology in a different manner.
Right.
Um, there's still some people, like Cody still, he's an electrician.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a number of people that still, I feel like, at least had a foray or had a time put into that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But maybe you're right. Maybe the newer kids are not so much into that.
Yeah.
But it seemed like everybody or a lot of people had something to do with the car industry. Even if they are doing IT work, it's for some company that
Yeah, it's all auto industry related.
it's auto industry related. So it's very much the car.
Yeah.
Um,
Say hi, Albert.
so the idea was always to kind of represent, I guess the cutting edge of electronic music. You know, do you feel like that comes through in your work? You know,
Um, I don't know if it comes through, but that's definitely part of it. Like I want to make things I've never heard before.
right?
I don't want to. I don't want to redo music that I've already been listening to. That's boring.
Exactly. And
I want to.
there's so many new technologies that there's a lot of ways that you can pull things apart, put them back together, um,
Yeah.
and even the whole modular thing. Now, do you feel the modular stuff like helps you get there, or is it a distraction?
Um, I don't know that I can really answer that. I'm relatively new to the modular thing, I guess, compared to
Yeah,
all the other stuff. But um, what's cool about the modular is like I can get sounds out of this thing that I've never heard anywhere else, and I don't think could be made any other way. And I
yeah,
guess that's probably really what draws people to it. It's like it's so immediate and it's like pretty mind blowing. You patch a few things together and you're like, oh wow, I never would have thought of that before. I just put this cable in here and something crazy happened.
Do you feel like I mean, I just haven't heard. There's some examples of that that are really good that people do, but then I hear a lot of kind of just tinkering around that people do.
Yeah,
So
a lot of bad music. I mean, well, think about guitars.
true. Well, yeah,
How
I
many,
mean,
how many people play guitar and make some really awesome music, and how many people are out there just you know
yeah. Well,
strumming
guitar.
away, and
Yeah. So it's about the person you're saying and the concept that you have going into it.
yeah, probably both. I mean, it's the person and the technology.
And when you approach the modular, though, it seems like it lends itself well to exploration. And that's kind of the trap of it as well, is you start exploring. Um,
Right, and you never get any actual music made.
right. Do you feel like it helps to have an idea of what you want to do with it before you start, and then maybe that's useful?
Um,
Or do you just
yeah,
gotta know when you hear something and that's it? You kind of like, okay, I'm laying this down.
I think it's a little of both. There's, sometimes if you're just exploring, you hit on something and you're like, oh, that sounds awesome. I'm going to use that. I'm going to build a track out of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a sequence or you come up with like a certain patch or something. But also it's useful. Like right now, I got this track that I'm working on has a sound from the Zero Coast, and the Zero Coast doesn't have a filter. And I'm like, well, I want to modulate this, the filter,
Yeah.
in sync with the music. So I just patch in this thing that I want, and there it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, if you
And
already
what's
got
cool
something going, you can kind of extend it as a sort of.
yeah, you can, and you can have like multiple of those things going on at once. Like I could have, because I have this one filter patched, I can have, another whole monosynth line playing, and then I can use the tempo sync delay like on another synth and patch it in. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate flexibility.
Do you start, like, when you start a track, and I know we've been working together, so it's been more of just a collaborative thing with Fluxion AD. But when you work on Metria stuff, do you start with a synth sound? Do you start with a beat? Like, or do you start with a sample that you like?
All of the above. Metria is a very specific feeling. There's a certain kind of headspace I think I have to be in for Metria material.
Yes.
Whether it's a beat or a synth patch or whatever, like it could be any one of those things.
So you can start anywhere as long as it fits the mold of that feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah. So do you feel like your job and Detroit in general affects that feeling and the mood, or is it sort of something that persists and is separate from the environment?
No, I think Detroit has a big influence. Detroit's kind of like a black hole.
Yes.
Sort of like it has this very like all-consuming sort of feeling.
It certainly can.
I don't know, like if I grew up somewhere else, like I don't know, England or like out in the desert in Australia, I'd probably be making something very different.
If you were in Australia, maybe you'd be doing more tape loop stuff like
Yeah,
like
like
Tom.
Mr. Ellard.
Mr. Ellard, yeah. Yeah, that's so the location definitely affects it.
Yeah. And having like hundreds of like burned down factories and piles of scrap metal laying around everywhere.
How do you think that affects
the aesthetic?
So it affects it, but how do you feel? What is the difference in that Detroit feeling versus other places?
Hang on, I have a cat to attend to.
Okay. She jumped on something. Oh yeah. She's not getting attention, so yeah.
Nah, he's just clumsy. It's almost dinner time too. They get anxious.
Oh yeah. I do too. So
the cats, they know when it's time to feed them.
All right.
Anyways, where were we?
Yeah. So the question was, how does the feeling and the culture of Detroit, how do you feel it's different from other places in the country?
Um, like when we went to LA last year,
Yeah,
you definitely don't feel the same way in LA as you do in Detroit.
it was a lot more relaxed than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
Like people
exactly.
are way more chill. Now, I don't know if that was the case back in the 90s or something, but it is definitely the case now.
Right. And I'm sure it depends, what part you're in, but every city has a different feeling, or if you're like out in the wilderness. Like
Yeah.
what's really crazy is like, playing a show at like autonomous mutant festival like in the woods, in Oregon somewhere,
Hmm.
on a sound system in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. It's super psychedelic. It's so like it's like tranquil but also like pretty awesome. It's a very different feeling than being in a warehouse in Detroit.
Yeah, but I almost feel like even when I go up north, Michigan, even in the UP, like there's a Michigan feeling there.
Mm,
It's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
different.
I don't really get that. If I go to like, whatever, Traverse City or something,
Yeah,
that feels like a different place to me.
yeah. So Detroit has a specific feeling there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why, and it is the blight, of course, and but it's more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of like, that like Midwestern, like, worker bee mentality. Like everybody's just moving along, doing their thing.
Yeah, but it's Cleveland feels way different to me,
Yeah.
you know, or
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, where
Yeah.
you're moving to. Like also blue collar originally,
Hmm.
I don't know so much anymore, but
Yeah, I'm gonna find out in 2 months.
yeah, you're moving there. That's cool. Are you looking forward to your move to Pittsburgh?
I'm kind of excited about living somewhere else for a while.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about packing all my shit up and moving.
Yeah, that's challenging. But yeah, you've pretty much lived in the Detroit area all your whole life, right?
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good to get out, see what's out there. Hmm. People might find you like too edgy for, you know,
For Pittsburgh.
for other things. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. I'm definitely on the West Coast. I could definitely feel like I'm not exactly fitting in.
Yeah, we haven't chilled out enough for the West Coast, I guess.
No, like we need to. I mean, I thought that you know doing certain things for 20 years, you'd think that we've chilled out, but maybe not.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely some more chilling out to do.
so where do you see the we do this thing, we call it industrial music. Where do you see the future of that going, or is there a future for it?
Um, I don't know. I feel like that term industrial music gets misapplied quite a bit
I
to
agree.
things that sound industrial. It's like, you know, clanging metal and, abrasive beats and stuff like that. I think industrial music, the way I see it is like this is your work that you do. Like you have this technology, you go to work and you do this thing, and at the end of the day or the end of the week, you have a product. You have something to show for it. Um, as far as the future of like this electronic music,
Yeah.
all this crazy technology, I don't know. I'm sure it's going to keep going. I just wonder, like, I don't know what the next thing is going to be. There was like the big software revolution
There was. Yeah.
playing on laptops, and now everybody's doing modular synths because they hate laptops.
You think it's going to come full circle back to software?
No, I think it's going to get more performative actually, because like the whole music industry took this weird turn where people don't really buy recorded music anymore. What they do is go out to shows. They want to see you perform. So
I feel like people buy music now more than they have in the last few years, maybe.
yeah, I don't know.
Again, well, then, they'll download a track here and there and then pay for it.
Right.
Whereas before, it was just like,
But people don't have like massive media collections anymore.
yeah, unless you're an actual collector, or
Right. Like we know a bunch of collectors,
we do.
which is awesome. These people know a ton about music, but like the average consumer, like the people who are just like into this thing.
Yeah, they just have a Spotify playlist probably that they like. I'm not sure
Right.
how
They,
it
they have
works.
some MP3s on their computer that they like. I feel like they're in it for the experience. Like they want to listen to the music, or they want to go, be in a place with similar people, see a band play.
Yeah, so do you think that's the direction of, I guess, from the music to more of a performance aspect, or maybe installation?
The installation idea is pretty awesome. I've been thinking about doing some things in that regard, like more in an art context
Yeah,
than like a live band idea for a little while.
sure.
Um, but I don't know. There's always going to be a place for that live band, but I think from the side of making things, I think the next wave is going to be different types of like performance controllers where you can like dance like in a field of sensors, and this either a computer or a synthesizer or something like interprets your dance and makes a soundtrack to go with it. Or
Yeah,
like Jason's what is that called, his primary assembly thing, the EEG.
the brain thing.
Yeah, the brain thing, converting his brain waves to an app to generate music that way.
Yeah,
you know
that's a cool idea. I feel like looking at it is not maybe necessarily, that exciting. As a person is just standing there, right?
right.
But if it's very cerebral.
hmm or another good example is like when Nadine and I went to Mutech, and you see these people who are performing in like this giant immersive space. It's almost like the performer is not the focus. It's about the experience of being in this room with this crazy light show, or you have
Yeah.
some like projection mapping going on, like in the space around you that can only be done in that space.
Yeah, that kind of thing is definitely something I would be interested in doing.
Yeah.
Video component seems like super important. So at this point, you know, but people go out to the bar and they just want to talk to each other and get drunk and listen to something that is approved as being cool by their peers. Not to diminish the culture or anything, but that is part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always going to be a place for that.
Yeah, I think there is. Maybe not so with the CV19 thing, but we are
Yeah,
definitely breaching out into new territories here with all the streaming stuff. Like,
yeah. The forced quarantine thing. That's an interesting twist.
yeah, that's putting, like we're doing this thing Sunday. That's interesting because everybody's doing solo sets because we can't hang out or whatever.
Hmm.
So it's forcing, the question of development in a different way.
Yeah, everybody's about to become amateur broadcasters.
I mean, they are essentially
Yeah,
now.
I mean,
And everybody talked about it before, and the technology was there. But there was no reason to do it necessarily.
right now you kind of have to.
Now you have to. So it's a strange world that we live in now. So
Yeah, this
um,
is the dystopian future.
this is the dystopian future that a lot of the music was predicting, or a lot of the culture, industrial cyberpunk culture, was talking about.
Hmm.
I guess everybody's sort of a seer, you know. They saw this moment in time somehow, or I guess it's not that hard to guess at,
Yeah,
but it was predicted in a way, right?
yeah.
Maybe not in this form, but the mild apocalypse.
Yeah.
The mild apocalypse. So it's not Mad Max. It's.
No, that's what's that Snog song? He sings like the end will not be glamorous or exciting. No,
Yeah,
not exciting.
I don't remember that song, but
Yeah.
that's definitely here with that. So I guess we'll leave it on that note for now, and then thanks for chatting here, and you guys check out the new Fluxion AD is coming out sooner than later. Um, and then I guess a new Metria is on the way, right?
Yeah, probably early next year, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, okay.
I gotta move and I gotta reset up the studio, and then
Yeah,
I have like
reestablish your life.
right. I have like two things mostly recorded. I have like maybe four other tracks that are kind of half finished.
Sure. Well, I'm sure if you start playing shows with it, it'll kind of force some deadlines. So,
Right.
yeah, that's usually how that goes, isn't it? Even these streams are helpful, you know, kind of get some stuff done. Because another person is going to be listening. So you're like, okay, this is the presentation of it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you, Dave.
Yep. Thank you.